Closing keynote on inclusivity, the new mantra, a scientific philosophical approach by Dr. J.S. Rajkumar, Chairman and Chief Laparoscopic Surgeon from Lifeline Institute of Minimal Access, Lima. In MS from the Madras Medical College. He is a gold medalist from the National Board in Surgery and the youngest FRCS examiner from India. He's a pioneer laparoscopic surgeon and a key member of India's first liver transplant in 1995. Dr. Rajkumar performed the largest number of surgeries on HIV patients and owns more than 100 international and national publications and 2 textbooks on surgery. He's the chairman of Lifeline Lima Group of Hospitals, based in India, UAE, and Africa, and he's also a writer, musician, sportsman, poet, and a philosopher by heart who's in love with life. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to request all of you to please extend a very warm welcome to Dr. J.S. Rajkumar.
வல்லமை தாராயோ இந்த மாநிலம் பயனுற வாழ்வதற்கே. The great poet philosopher Bharatiyar said, he prayed to God and said, give me strength so that whatever I do is good for this earth. And Bharatiyar was the most inclusive of the South Indian poets. We'll come to that in a bit. Well, good evening everyone. There are many things that I can be and many things that I cannot be, but I cannot and have never ever been boring. So I am going to give you maybe 40 minutes to an hour of out-of-the-box thinking and a different approach to inclusion, inclusivity, and diversity. Being a scientist and seeing people live and die as doctors and surgeons, you tend to get a different approach to what for you would be a behavioral problem, for us would be a neurological problem. And hence, when I was asked to speak by Ashok and Sadhana, thanks to whom I'm here, I decided to speak on inclusivity, the new mantra. I'm very, very happy to be here. It's a terrific conference. I've been following it for some time on Insta. I mean, anybody who opens Insta can't see anything else except you guys, which is very good. And I'm here to talk a bit, to laugh a bit, to make you smile a bit, and to give you some new concepts. So some of my slides will be scientific, and some of my slides will be philosophical. And there is a place where science and philosophy intersect. Bose knew that. Vivekananda knew it. Adi Shankara knew that. And let's have a look into that. Could I go on to that? All right. So what exactly do you mean by inclusivity? You know, there's this bunch of reporters who went to Nicaragua, and they found that all the men were talking office shop and walking in front, and the women were all behind, and then they spoke to them about gender inclusivity. Went back in 5 years' time, and this time the women were walking in front and talking, and the men were all behind. And they asked the guys, did you understand about inclusivity? They said, no, there are landmines here, so we let the girls walk in front. So that's not inclusivity. Inclusivity has to be focused. It's got to be genuine. And as my point will tell you later, it needs to come from the heart. There are 2 ways in which you can be inclusive. You can be inclusive in order to fulfill company regulations, or you can be inclusive because you're inclusive from your heart. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. Because at the end of my talk, I'm going to ask you guys to touch your hearts and tell me what exactly you feel internally. All right? All right, so in the 1970s, people were dying in India because of respiratory infections. People were dying because of diseases due to worms, etc., children. And of course, there was an overpopulation. So when they asked a very big healthcare economist to summarize the Indian situation, he said, in India, all our problems are because of germs, worms, and sperms, because of overpopulation. It's a documented approach from a big healthcare economist. Yeah, it's good to smile and laugh, so keep going. But I'm going to talk to you about the secrets of who we really are. One of the most exciting projects, the $32 billion project, was the National Human Genome Project. If you understand this, you will understand why it's so stupid to be exclusive and how it's actually natural to be inclusive. If you look at the body is formed by the fusion of the sperm and the egg. There are 2 types of DNA. We carry our DNA, which tells us who we are. There is a DNA inside the nucleus of the cell, and there's a DNA outside the nucleus. This is known as the mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondria are the batteries, the powerhouses of the cell. It's beautiful. one of the first things they picked up in the National Human Genome Project was that when a sperm goes into an egg and forms a baby, the sperm leaves behind its mitochondrial DNA. So the first official finding of the NHGP was all mitochondrial DNA is maternal. Beautiful, isn't it? That means all babies everywhere, the mitochondrial DNA is maternal. So the rest of the study was done on that, and they found out that blacks, browns, yellows, and whites all are carrying the same mitochondrial maternal DNA. So the second major output from the NHGP is that all humans are 99.9% identical. If you Google the output of the National Human Genome Project, you'll find President Clinton saying, this is the most exciting thing because we now know that all of us are nearly alike. Let me spin you back to 100 years ago when Swami Vivekananda said, do you not know that all humans are alike but for 1%? He got the number as 1%. The human genome said 0.1%. And he said, very interesting, that word that Swami Vivekananda used, he said that 1% is a narcissistic difference. I'm whiter than you are. My nose is bigger than yours. My hair is there or my hair is not there. You know, narcissistic differences. Otherwise, we are all same. This is the most important scientific fact to emerge in the last century, and I want you to be aware of that. Now, let me tell you one more thing. If you look at a DNA, the older it gets, it undergoes some changes. Those are called mutation. So the old DNA has more changes, the new DNA has less changes. Based on that, which established that the Caucasian DNA is the youngest, just formed, and then the yellow, and then the brown, and the oldest is the black DNA. So we all came from one Eve, was the finding of the National Human Genome Project. You call her Eva, whatever you want. There was one woman who started it all, and she was black, and that's why I put there, and she be black, brother, because Eve was almost certainly black. So this is a very important finding. You think about it. We are like a bunch of rodents. I can't imagine one squirrel fighting against another squirrel saying, you know, I'm a little browner than you. It's worse than that, what we are doing, because we are more identical to each other than squirrels are. And to my mind, this is where science teaches us human philosophy. And this is what 2,000, 3,000 years ago in the Upanishads, it said, Aham Brahmasmi. The whole universe is inside you, and you are part of the universe. And if you truly subscribe to that, you won't find fault with somebody because his hair is curly. For me, it's the most superficial form of existence. But unless you're aware of the deeper layers of intelligence, how will you be aware that the superficial forms are indeed superficial? I will tell you a beautiful word called Vishwam. Vishwam means the world in you. It's a very nice story about Adi Shankara. Adi Shankara, when he first learned, he went to, we talked scientific part. Let's look at the philosophical intersection. Adi Shankara, he was first learning with Govinda Bhatt. And Govinda Bhatt told him, you know, Vishnu Sahasranamam has got 1,000 names. That's why it's called the Sahasranamam. He said, please write a treatise on these 1,000 names. This man, Adi Shankara, said, okay. And he wrote for a few weeks, 50, 100, 150 pages. It was all only on the very first word itself. And that first word is Vishwam, where the whole world is one. And he actually writes in that how all of us are one, but unfortunately are not aware that we are one. So, in the scientific philosophical debate that we're going to do, we're going to talk in terms of gender. I've heard a lot of it on gender today, a lot of it on race, language. I think language is something that we're not looking at. Sexual orientation, and most importantly, as a doctor, disease. How would you respond to a deceased person? Can you just be, we are very gender, we are very unity, diversity, and then somebody has HIV, get away from me. Then you're not really being inclusive, are you? So let's study that in a little bit greater detail. Now, another interesting, back to science again. Enough scientific data now saying that all of us have 3 brains in us. The first brain is called the amygdala, small brain. It's called the lizard brain. On top of that is the dog's brain. And on top of that is the human brain. So when we take decisions, it's a beautiful Nobel Prize winning work called Think Fast, Think Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Kahneman and Trotsky, they've done so much of work saying that there are 3 levels of brain, and in every decision that we take, whom we marry, what product we buy, what toothpaste we use, one of these 3, or 2 of these 3, or 3 of them work together. And the most basic one, the one that is afraid of change, is the lizard brain. The lizard brain evolved in the savannas. It looks at a zebra, grows up, and a little zebra thinks anything that doesn't look like a zebra will kill it. It may be a cheetah, it might be a lion, and therefore the most basic level of brain functioning is, hey, he doesn't look like me, watch out, he's going to do something to me. A lizard thinks that a snake is going to eat it up. So this lizard brain is constantly working. It's your gut instinct. As a guy, sometimes you just say hi to a girl, and the girl will think, oh, is this guy going to do something to me? That's the lizard brain. It's not a wrong thing. That lizard brain is trained over thousands and thousands of years. You need to overcome that brain and work on the dog level, which is a little bit more, and then finally the human. So the head and the heart need to function over the gut. And it's interesting, the guys who did a lot of research on that are not us doctors. It's blinking economists. To see, when you see one really smart, handsome guy there, after spice, some artist, hey, I want to be like that guy. We'll be like short, tubby, bald, and ugly. But everybody thinks he's like one James Bond when he buys. That's the lizard brain. And the lizard brain is involved in fast thinking, your first response. Oh, he doesn't look like me, I better watch out. She doesn't look like me. Oh, she's speaking a different language. Lizard brain. So we need to start thinking in terms of brains and allow the more evolved brain to function. So those who are inclusive are more evolved. Again, Swami Vivekananda said, understand that there is a God in everyone. And understanding that will help you to free yourself. So this is called the neurophysiological basis of exclusion. For you to understand inclusion, Einstein said, to understand white, you need to know what black is. Then only you'll understand white. So similarly, the neurophysiological basis of exclusion is the lizard brain popping up and saying, hey, she's different, watch out. He's different, hey, he looks different. And brain is otherwise known as an us versus them. I'll take you back to one more point. Is negativity more important or positivity more important in survival? Negativity. Because imagine a zebra is going by and it sees some green grass, and then it hears the growl of a lion. Which is more important to the zebra? The growl of the lion is more challenging to its life, and therefore it'll say, forget about it. And you won't believe. This is why you and I, if somebody sends some rubbish about somebody else in the WhatsApp, you will immediately think about the negative thing. I'll come to that in a minute. Again, the lizard brain is operational. They found out that if you say, if you don't smoke cigarettes, you'll be healthy, people won't listen. If you smoke cigarettes, I am Mukesh. I don't want to become like Mukesh. You see? That's the lizard brain. You understand? And that's the principle of negativity. Our human brains, all brains all over the world, are hardwired to pick up negativity. You need to, but not, when I say all, it's not for Swami Vivekananda or not for the evolved people. We need to evolve to get past that negativity. When we are operating, somebody will say, somebody ran away with someone, some doctor ran away with someone. I said, no, I don't want that shit. I don't want that rubbish. I don't want to get negative, which is what we all do. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, but blood is inclusive. I've given blood 66 times, and nobody's asked me whether I'm brown or black, or etc. That's pretty obvious. But nobody's ever asked me which caste I belong to, or which religion I belong to, because blood, you don't go by all this. You go by A, B, O, AB. They want A1 positive. They don't want A1 positive from somebody who looks like Amitabh Bachchan. But right now, Amitabh Bachchan might be needing blood. It's a different matter, but poor chap. But I'm just saying, blood is inclusive. Let me tell you another thing that's inclusive. Money. About 2-3 years ago, it's true, I would advise all of you guys to read this amazing book, Sapiens, Deus, and now 21 Lessons by Yuval Atari. And he writes about how when the ISIS went in, the new Islamic Republic went in, they destroyed anything that contained a figure. Because according to their sect of Islam, anything with a figure is desecrable. They destroyed any statue. They destroyed everything. They went into the banks and they found stashes inside millions of dollars. They didn't do anything to them. All the $1 million had the Benjamin Franklin's bald head on them nicely. And in God we trust. It's obviously a different God. But only those millions of dollars they used very nicely. So blood and money are inclusive. So we need to develop deliberately. I feel it requires internal changes, not external changes. If you change The internals, the externals will get changed. And that's what I'm not exhorting you. I don't even know anything about company policies. I'm not here to talk about company policies. I'm here to talk about, are you that way internally? I'm here to talk about you, about us. Let's start with gender inclusivity. I don't know how many of you have read. There's a fabulous Upanishad called the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. My boys did the thing. Sorry, I just flew in from Dubai for this talk, slugged my guitar and came over. So my boys here did this is not the Brihadaranyaka, but the Brihadaranyaka. Brihada means big, and Aranyaka means, Aranyam is the forest. In the large forest, this Upanishad was written. You will find a lady called, again, it's not Maitreya, it's Maitreyi. Maitreyi. 3,000 years ago, at least this was written. And a lady plays such a strong role. Maitreyi is the wife of a sage called Yajnavalkya. And you should see how intelligently she argues. So intelligently. Why is you doing this? You cannot do this. You cannot do this. This belongs to the king. In other words, in philosophical discourses 3,000 years ago, women were given equal spots as men. There's one more like Maitreyi, a person called Gargi, who's supposed to have read, she's the daughter of a big sage, who's read so much of the scriptures that she was better than any man of our times. India comes from a culture that treated women on par with men. And right through the Upanishads, there are so many more. Gargi, there's Maitreyi, there's Janaki, so many. We treated them on par. The entire Mahabharata happened because of one lady. Because most wars happen because of a lady, either inside or outside the house. So, and then it's so sad to me that a country that came from such a culture, we have something like an incident like from Maitreyi, we've come down to Nirbhaya. Personally, if you ask me, I'm all for capital punishment. But I don't know whether I'm supposed to say that in front of a camera, but I think we should just give capital punishment and hang these guys. In 1925, India had the first head of a political party, well before UK. In 1947, we got in 1925, Sarojini Devi came as head of the UK, head of our Congress party. Whereas only in 1975, Margaret Thatcher. This is written beautifully by Amartya Sen in his book called The Argumentative Indian, another masterpiece for every Indian. So we were 50 years ahead of the UK in nominating a lady to be a head of a political party. So we were that much ahead. Somewhere down the line, we've lost that gender inclusivity. But I see the number of ladies here. A few weeks ago, I was lecturing at the LIBA, Loyola Institute of Business Administration. I saw so many ladies there, and I'm very, very happy. I personally am of the belief that the women are indeed a much stronger gender. There are so many things women can do that men simply cannot do. I would also advise all of you to read this book by Zaidi called 50 Million Rising. You think that this workforce of women is big? It's not. The Indian women workforce is 29%, right? Kazakhstan has got a workforce of 66%. They've grown from 11 to 66% between 2000 and 2019. Whereas in India, we've grown from 18 to 29%. We have registered growth. What I'm saying is that there's this beautiful phenomenon sweeping through the world that these 50 million rising, you know what the 50 million are? 50 million women in the last 19 years, Muslim women with their hijabs all over the world are now taking to the computers, to healthcare. They're now working. To me, this book is a very, very important book because it's going to change radically this dependent woman completely being crunched. These women are earning. They're now educated. They're educating their children. And I believe, and the author also has written that way, that we are going to see a new, changed face of womanhood in Islam. It's going to be fantastic. 50 million, and their expected income is $1 trillion because 1/5 of the world is Islam. So out of a world population of 7.5 billion, you have nearly 1.5 to 2 billion. Half of them, that's nearly 1 billion, are Muslim women. And already it's jumped from 20 million 50 years ago to 100 million 20 years ago to 150 million, rising every day, which is brilliant. Just good, because then we are going to see women truly liberated, not just partially liberated. Your field in IT, there's so many women. Our field in medicine too, we're surrounded. We have so many, we're so proud to say that nurses, doctors, right across, and in management, We have so many ladies, and I think that's wonderful for the future. As I said, I was talking in Liber, and I saw so many these MBA people, nearly 60, 70% are women. I think that men have to start looking towards women very, very soon. You know, there's this joke about Saurav Ganguly when he lost a match in Calcutta. You know how it's in Calcutta? If you lose a match, they'll finish you. If you win a match, they'll keep you on top of the head. So in Calcutta, there are only two places if you can stay, either on top of the heads or right down below. Ask her, she'll tell you. Mamta Ji will tell you. So they took this, Saurav lost a match and he got scared. He thought, oh, these guys are going to hammer me. So he dressed up like a girl. I was talking about men having to look towards girls. Dressed like a girl and went to the marketplace. And he looked, cute looking guy. So nobody recognized him. He was doing his shopping. One little girl recognized him and said, you're Saurav, no? Said, yeah, but don't tell anybody. I won't. Why? I'm Sachin, he said. So, men, I think, are having to start not just to dress like women, but to turn towards ladies. It is my firm opinion that you add iron to a male, you get female. Greater strength, greater ductility. And honestly, I would have said that even if it had been 80% male in the audience, because it's something that I firmly believe in, that in many, many ways, even at home, I'm the boss. I make all the major decisions at home, like who's going to be PM, who's going to be CM. All these minor issues, which school the children should go to, which college they should go to, where we should buy our stuff, where we should live, all that I leave to my wife. So, this is very important. When you include, people will exclude you. Have you ever thought about that? When you include, you become them, in that us versus them. People will exclude you. Why? Because we talked about science until now. Shift again to philosophy, because we live in Kali Yuga. Go through the Atharva Veda, again written thousands of years ago, and it says that when you enter Kali Yuga, which we have, people will choose illusion to reality. I have people all staring at the screen for hours and hours, watching mega serials while their mothers are rotting of cancer. People are watching cricket matches while the children are having exams. Illusion takes over reality. On a white wall, if a black mark is made, I didn't say this, Ved Vyasa said that, in Kali Yuga, people will only look at the black mark, not at the white. Think about it. It's that negativity that's coming out. And many times when I tried, I'll show you some of our attempts at being inclusive, etc. People looked at me with a derisive smile. I know why he's doing it. He's doing it for some award. He's doing it for this. He's doing it for that. They don't trust you. Everybody is skeptical, and skepticism will take over belief. Now, I've written that R.J. Balaji is a radio jockey who's quite close to me. He's a very, very prominent radio jockey who's also a social activist. And Sujit works for Infosys. He's one of the top HR guys in Infosys, Sujit Peter. He's also a dear friend of mine. Both of them work together and they're doing a lot of social work. I'll tell you what I learned from them. Negativity, how to convert it into positivity. I learned from these two boys. Somebody needed money for a heart transplant. Now, what would we say? Hey, boss, anybody's got anything? And some 2-3 people will say something. Indians will do charity only when the whole world is looking at them. Nothing behind, unfortunately. These guys, they use the fact that everybody's negative. Sujit came up with a post on Facebook saying, Balaji attacks Sachin Tendulkar. Immediately 1 million views, because he's a well-known RJ. Everybody wants to, what's he saying bad about Sachin Tendulkar? Everybody wants to hear if he's saying something bad. And I sometimes, like Vivekananda said, I bemoan what the human race has gone to. Put something bad, everybody will go into it. Just put in your office, somebody is having an affair. The whole world will see it. Finally, it'll be the rat under your table, never mind. They'll see that. Somebody else is having a heart attack, oh, it's incidental. Hey, someone's having an affair, let's see. So they put, he put there, R.J. Balaji attacks Sachin Tendulkar, and had 1 million views. And then they said, I'm not really attacking Tendulkar, I'm putting this because you won't see it otherwise. A baby needs a heart. Can you please organize it? They got the money and the baby got the heart. Through negativity. These guys did it. Many of us, very nice. And they're many years younger than me, but I learned a lot from them. I'm the sort, personally, if you ask and they say something, I'll say, oh, bugger off. And I used to walk away. But these guys turned it to their advantage and they did it very well. And I think all of us must learn that. These are the mistakes. There are many, many mistakes in my life. And I went, I'm a head-on kind of guy. And you have to use that negativity. So from today, I want all of you to salute whoever has been negative to you. Salute them. But salute them with the upraised middle finger of your left hand. And continue doing the good stuff. Don't let negativity get you down. Today's India, we can't afford negativity. As far as I'm concerned, somebody who says, hey, I know what you're doing, those are the worst guys. Worst guys. If somebody is doing good, allow them to do good. Right. Let's go on from gender to, so gender, of course, hats off. Women are taking on very nicely, and I think we don't have a big problem there. Let's talk about race. It's a fabulous speech by Martin Luther King, August 28th, 1963. How many of you heard that? I have a dream. What a beautiful speech. When he said, I have a dream that my 4 sons, my 4 children will not be judged as much by the color of their skins as by the content of their character. We talk about content writing, the content of their character. What a beautiful speech. He said, I have a dream that in Alabama, such a racist place, little black boys and girls will hold hands with little white boys and girls and play together. Such a beautiful speech he gave. Now, I think this racism, there are 2 aspects. One, that black and white which the Americans did was across a race. But India, let's face it, shamefully, India also does that. See that today's paper? I landed up at 3 o'clock from Dubai, and this morning, before breakfast, I checked even today's paper. I checked the matrimonial column. And again, as usual, wanted, fair Brahmin bride. Fair, all over the place. I actually wanted to bring it and show it. Why? Why are we spending bloody billions of dollars on bloody fair complexion creams? Huh? Why? Why are we so scared to go out into the sun and get the vitamin D? Dark, doctor. And then you talk about Martin Luther King. Array, we are hypocrites here. You must have the guts. As Indians, we must have the guts to stand up. Vivekananda said, I need 100 Indians to get up and speak for ourselves, to tell ourselves what we truly believe in. We are a nation of hypocrites. Martin Luther King, oh, so sad, yeah. Let me put my Fair and Lovely on. Array, come on. Wake up, grow up. And I believe that there is a form of internal racism going on even amongst ourselves. We are still in the colonial times, thinking that fair in some inconceivable way is better than black, although black is actually the original color. It's the color of Eve, the color of DNA from which we came. Now, I'm going to talk about something else called culturism. Has it been spoken about today or yesterday? Something called culturism, as different from racism. Now, race is genetically different. I'll tell you my example of culturism. When a culture is different, people balk at it. All right? Am I going too fast? I have been accused sometimes of having verbal diarrhea, but her biceps are going to pain. You don't need to do too much exercise after this. Right, so I just have a flow of ideas and I just want to get it across. Stop me if I'm going too fast. Right, so culturism. So I was starting to work in the UK, 1989, hotshot surgeon, etc. I was going there, I had a bunch of boys with me, right? So I go in there and I walked in and I wore a Raymond's, the guide to the well-dressed male, bow tie and matching paka suit and bow tie. And I thought I was very hip. And I walked in, etc. And then I didn't know that there were hundreds and hundreds of restaurants in London, Indian and Pakistani restaurants, where they all wear only the Raymond's tie. Culturism, right? So I walk in there, and of course, see this British tongue-in-cheek humor. So I walk in there and said, all right, guys, I walked in first day. What do you guys want to do? Where do you want to, what do we start with? So there were about 8-10 people, and one guy was browner than I was, British Asian, brought up there, what we call coconut, brown outside and white inside. So he was... Good, you guys are catching fast here. Good. I know, more girls in the crowd. That's why you guys are so sharp. So this guy was leaning back, and you know what he said? Well, a chicken tikka would be fine. I couldn't understand for a minute. I'm asking him whether you guys want to go and see the hernia patient or cancer patient. They're asking chicken tikka. Then it dawned on me that culturally we were different. And what I thought was a very hip Raymond's guide to the well-dressed male was what every guy in the restaurant was wearing. Now that's a cultural difference. Of course, I got along well with all the boys later. But when we see somebody, I'll tell you another cultural thing. In England, it's very cold and all the flats are closed, right? So whatever you cook, that'll go round and round. So everything that's hanging there will smell of this chapati kind of thing there, right? So my jackets, all my hep jackets are all smelling. I didn't know that. I went there and then some big operation I did and everybody said, no, that's very, very nicely done. But we all wanted to ask you something else. So I thought they're going to ask me, how good are your hands? Or how... They said, by any chance, are you using curry powder as your deodorant? I said, what? I didn't understand. But yes, I laughed at myself. I've learned that when you laugh at yourself, you grow and you learn. And this is exactly what I mean by culturism. Now, personally, I'm cool. But then not everybody will be cool. And maybe in an era where we want to be politically correct, we shouldn't comment on someone's, curry powder, unless, of course, they're fainting because of the curry powder smell. All right, so this is a person who spoke against racism and culturism. You can Google him. His name is Eric Wainaina. He's one of the biggest pop stars in Kenya. And he did the opening rock work for USAID, for Africa Loves, etc. I was fortunate to be with him in Kenya, and we did some jamming in his studio. And this is some of the work that we all did together in places like Somaliland, etc. Right, so I'm going on from there to language, all right? So language is something that you don't think about, but it's there. It's right with you. It's like your breath. You don't think about, but it's there. I believe that today, India is riven by languages. I don't know much about your state, but in our state, we have a major problem with people saying, our language is a wonderful language. I believe that language should unite people, not divide them. Say, for example, again, I quote my favorite, wonderful, revolutionary poet, Bharadiyar. When Bharadiyar was alive, there were 30 crore people, that is about 3 billion. Now it's 30 crore people, 300 million. So he sang so beautifully. Muppadu Kodi Mugamudayal. He's talking about Bharat Mata. He has 30 crore faces. Uyir Moimpura Wondrudayal. But she has only one life. So 30 crore people faces, but one life. Ival Seppu Mori Padinetudayal. She speaks 18 languages. Yenir Sindanai Wondrudayal. But she has only one thought. At that time it was freedom. So beautifully he said. And people think, Tamil is fantastic. Why should we bother about other languages? But that's rubbish. Politicos will separate us. I find gangs happening even in surgical associations, in many medical associations. Tamil speaking, Telugu speaking. Come on. Where are you? In Manchester. Come on. You got to grow up. We need to clean ourselves up first. We need to do an internal cleaning. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see. How dare these guys do to Rodney King? How dare those guys do to you're doing it to your own neighbor. Right? So don't do that. Bharatiyar, the man who said, Yamarinda Morigalile, in the languages that I know, and he spoke 8 languages frequently, Tamil Mori Pol Inidengum Kanum. Such a beautiful one I have not seen. He also said, Sundara Terenginil Party Saithe. Beautiful Telugu. Let us sing in that. He said, Singa Marathiyartham Kavidaigal Kundu. The beautiful, powerful poetry of the lion-hearted Marathas. He spoke about that. I think we need to develop a pride. We've got all these languages are ours. Hey guys, come on, let's get together. Instead of saying, you're separate, because you speak Kannada, I speak this. It's ridiculous. I always say in every place, मैं हिंदी में बात करता हूँ, नान तमिल पेसवेन, नानु कन्नडो माते देने, well, I got there. Then Telugu maatladtanu, etc., etc., etc. And I think saying Jai Hind, you can say the second Jai Hind again was a typo. When I wrote this in Dubai, I wrote the Jai Hind. The second one I thought was Jai Hindi. Because at the end of the day, we have one language that is common to all of us, and we should accept that and say, okay, let's all speak in one language instead of saying, I don't like you, you don't like me. So that's about language. Next, I'm going to talk to you about neurodiversity. Back to a little science again. All right? So, neurodiversity. This is a cutting I made from the Harvard Business Review 3 or 4 months ago. A brilliant whole review on neurodiversity. Fantastic. How you don't say, hey, this guy is like Rain Man, this guy is autistic. You don't. These guys have different neural circuits. The good HR person will use the circuits to do your job. Now I did this 10, 12 years ago. We did this. We looked at people as with various traits, And we looked at a group called spastin. Now, spas is a bad word in the US. It means you're calling somebody a retard if you say spas. But we have, unfortunately, in Tamil Nadu, the biggest group of cerebral palsy people is called Spastic Society of Tamil Nadu, spastin. So we signed 10, 11 years ago. I'm talking about neuro-inclusion. It's a new term. Inclusion or inclusivity, you only talk about people in terms of gender and race over and over again. Neuro-inclusion. Should you look at neural circuits. There are some people who can see numbers and figures differently. Your HR person must take them somewhere else. Some people can do, like for what we did was, we studied these boys and we took in 9 of them to work with us. We signed this thingy, MOU with Spastin. You won't believe it, how fantastically they worked. One of them just wanted to count. He was with the abacus all day, right? So we took him in, and he was doing the cash counting, because those were days pre-demonetization. So people were all paying in cash. He was counting the cash perfectly from morning to evening. And these people, their things are in a loop. They like to keep on doing the same thing over and over again. They used to complain when the time was up. Aren't they perfect to work for you? They're complaining, I want to count some more. No, go home, come back tomorrow. He just wants, another person liked to cut. So he was cutting the bandages from morning to evening, perfectly in a straight line. Another guy was like Forrest Gump. He liked to go and talk to people. So he was in charge of going and giving the tea and coffee to people. There's some people who had greater deformities. We kept them in the lift. My mistake when I did this was, we didn't make enough noise about it. Shy. People will think this, people will think that. Remember, now I always think with the raised middle finger, because we think people will say this, people will say that. But actually I didn't even know the term neuro-inclusion. But we believed. I know why I didn't do it for these boys. Some of the parents were my patients. And every day, these parents used to just take them up and down to the spastin. You should have seen the pride in the parents' faces in a little Lambretta scooter, bringing his boy to work, and collecting him at 5 o'clock in the evening, and being happy that his son was actually working for himself. And many of these fathers have shed tears to me and said, "Sir, these boys, now I used to be worried in case I had a heart attack, what will happen? At least now he's going to get a job, he's got a job, he's earning for himself." So there was a larger social reason that we did it. I didn't even know the term neuro-inclusion, but we found that they were actually doing their jobs focused over and over, because their brains know they don't run out of neurochemicals. They're only in that loop all the time, over and over again, like our teachers used to teach us, over and over, same thing. They're like that. So these guys are very good. And I think nowadays what they're saying is, within the next 5 years, there'll be functional MRI in India. You can actually do somebody's neural mapping and say, these circuits are better, so this guy will go to HR. These circuits are better, so he'll be doing algorithms. They found out that most of the guys who are writing in artificial intelligence, they have some form of ADHD. So there are great advantages for neuro-inclusion. Please think about neuro-inclusion is the new buzzword. You might actually, some of the immersive reality ones, many of the immersive reality software algorithms were written by people who are neurodiverse. And their functional MRIs are showing the difference. Please get that Harvard Business Review, you guys, and read it up, because things are going to change. You'll be choosing more accurately down those pathways. Now, I would like to say thanks to Rotary, because along with Rotary, we have been doing a lot of work for neurodiverse people like polio, CPF, cerebral palsy, dystrophy, etc. Again, human beings are a diverse lot. There's a joke about people going to one miser and saying, "Boss, we're doing this neuro-inclusive stuff for CP, for polio, dystrophy, etc. So we want you to be inclusive." What bull? My nephew's got he's got this neurodystrophy problem. Oh, I'm so sorry, we didn't know about it. Another nephew's married a black lady, they're in Alabama, and they're both out of a job. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've got 3, 4 widowed sisters. I'm so sorry. I'm not giving 1 cent to any of them. Why should I give to your Rotary? He's asking, it seems. So it takes all forms of people to understand neurodiversity. And you need to actually apply along those verticals. Let's move on to sexual orientation. When the world started, there was Adam and Eve. But nowadays it's become Adam and Steve. What to do? But Adam's and Steve's business is their own. It's not our business. Recently, we've been giving awards in a big group called Alert. It's called Alert Being Awards. We're giving awards to NGOs for their work. We were stunned by an NGO, a young girl, Neelam Jain, who takes transgenders and fights with all the companies and ensures that these transgenders get good jobs. I must confess that in terms of inclusivity, the last to enter into my orbit were the transgenders. It's just something, the conditioning, social conditioning that we've been brought up with, no? You hear them saying this and all that, and you're kind of little revulsed by that. But then you grow into it and you think, okay, they're human beings like us. They have a right to exist. So this Neelam Jain is doing a lot of work, and when we gave them the award, she brought these transgenders. And you know what this transgender said? She said, whatever you, don't look at us, look at our work. And she said that, that's not my quote, it's hers. She said, because talent has no gender. We have to realize that they are in for that talent. So Adam and Steve, what they do with each other, we don't mind. As long as Adam is doing his job well with me, I should take him. I should embrace him. And that, I think, is inclusivity, a little difficult for the Indian male conditioned brain. Little less difficult for the Indian female conditioned brain, but we need to condition ourselves. Of course, every transgender has his or her own play. And even that, you can see in the Mahabharata, there's Bhishma Pitama, who could not be beaten at all. By bringing Shikhandi in front, Arjuna was able to defeat him. So there is a definite role, even in an epic battle, like the Mahabharata. There's a role for Shikhandi. Why can't there be a role for the Shikhandis in our daily battles or in our jobs? And you need to look at our work as a microcosm, and something like the Mahabharata as a macrocosm. Now, back again to a little bit of philosophy here. I believe that the best policy that everyone must take is Advaita. Because in Advaita, I'm not seeing 300 people sitting here, I'm seeing 300 little flames. The color doesn't matter. The color of the flame, wrapping, packaging, nothing matters. And there's a big flame on top, there's a small flame in me, small flame in everybody. That's it. You only see the Jivatma in everybody. And that, I think, is the most inclusive policy ever written. You only see the Jivatma. You refuse to see white or black, thin, skinny or fat, hair or no hair. You don't see all that. You see only the Jivatma in everybody, and you see the Paramatma. And so beautifully, is so inclusive. Jalaluddin Rumi, you all know about Rumi from Turkey. He said so beautifully, every drop of rain that comes in, and a lot of it is coming in Kerala, every drop of rain that comes in, it doesn't think that it's a drop going into the ocean. It thinks that the ocean is inside the drop. It's amazing inclusivity. Such amazing inclusivity. And Rumi and Advaita is amazing. And if you want to summarize the 32 years of Adi Shankara's life into two lines, it's simply this: Brahman Satya. What is true is that there is Brahman everywhere. Jagan Mithya. What is untrue, unreal, is this world and all these little things that we fancy. Nothing is going to last. What lasts is true. Brahman will last. And he finishes so beautifully by saying, Jivo Brahmaneva Na Paraha. That means the Jivo inside every one of you is Na Paraha, not different from the Brahman. That means everyone has God inside them. It is no different. The Jiva inside you is not different. Very easy to say and go. But will you follow it? It is in that following that everything is lost. So that is a wonderful immortal policy of Advaita, whom Adi Shankara at a very, very tender age, he was 27, 28 when he wrote all this, and he died and went at 32, was able to say everyone is same, irrespective of caste, color, creed, religion, sexual orientation, everything. And Swami Vivekananda also repeatedly says this. He says, be able to see the God in a person who doesn't like you. So he said, everybody must practice this. Someone doesn't like you, he's giving you crap. See if you can see the God in him. And if you do that, he said, only one person will be liberated by that. You. You will be liberated. Amazing. And I think that's what, from Swami Vivekananda, your neighbor from Bangalore in Bidadi is Swami Nityananda, who says, the me in me, it's not much of a difference actually. Boss, he got that much right. He got that much right. And Indian culture teaches us to understand that there can be something beautiful in everything. I think that there's that me in me business about the universe listening to him, my clock listening to him, I'm not so sure. But at least this me in me bit, he got it right. Right, I'm going to move on to the last 7-8 minutes. Don't worry, I won't take longer than that, maybe 10 max. What is worse than transgender in my mind, problem is HIV. Even transgenders, people are now accepting. So this is a little book that short stories and poetry. Oh my gosh, I really wore her out, I think. It's a little book that I released a few years ago. It's available on Kindle, called Scalpel Scribbles, because I'm a surgeon using the scalpel. I call it Scalpel Scribbles. But the point is not that. The point is that I'd called maybe 300, 400, 500 people for the release of the book, and the proceeds from the book were going to something connected to HIV. So everybody is very happy. And then I said, there are about 20 people with HIV sitting inside here. And there was a collective gasp. You should have seen everybody thinking this way, because many people didn't know who was sitting next to them. I believe that you're being truly inclusive if you can sit down and watch a movie knowing that the guy next to you is HIV positive. Ask yourself, can you? If you are, you're being inclusive. Otherwise, you're just shamming. You can get there. Work on yourself. But you haven't made it till that happens. There was a collective gasp. I can tell you one thing, that we, as a group, as Indians, are so much against these poor people. And we, for the last 20, 25 years, we've been operating on them. I'd like to thank this friend of mine called Daniel Timaya, who's now a big shot in the Indian Express. He was earlier, this is about 10, 12 years ago, when we were writing over and over again. He was writing on HIV patients. Nobody wants to operate upon them. And no, I'll tell you why doctors don't want to operate upon them. Only two reasons. One reason, doctors are worried that they'll get it. Second, we are worried that we'll get bankrupt. There are very, very clear medical guidelines in America. If you say you're HIV, go that side, that place will get sued to glory be. You have to treat them like normal guys. You have to keep them in normal rooms. You have to operate upon them in the normal theater, taking all the proper precautions. That's what we're doing. Now I'm asking you, how many of you would like your kids or your husbands operated upon the same day as a HIV positive patient in the same theater? You touch your hearts. Most of the time, the answer in your heart internally will be, no, can we just wait for a day, you clean up and then we'll do it, or some other theater. Because we are hypocrites. How much I can tell you, medically I'm following the guidelines, I'm cleaning. So I was also a hypocrite. We were doing the good work, but we're not even saying that outside, scared that people would unnecessarily think something wrong. We actually allocated a theater, which you're not supposed to, according to the guidelines. But we allocated a theater to keep all the stuff only there and do it. Even then, we were scared to say it outside, because we live in a land of hypocrisy. We need to get past these. Would you want a HIV positive guy to come and work next to you? You should say yes. You probably will all shout yes, Rang de Basanti, but you won't let him actually sit next to you, because we are hypocrites. This Mahadevan was an accountant. In the IT line, he was working abroad, and he discovered, first line, he was discovered to be HIV positive. You won't believe it. From a cushy job, he was tucked away into a 6 into 6 foot cell. They just did a sawing off of the lowest end of the door, and they used to put food underneath that for 2 or 3 days, because they were trying to charter a small flight for him. Nobody was willing to travel with him. This happened 10, 15 years ago, very extreme. And then finally they chartered a flight for him and they sent him. So when he came to us for surgery and I saw him, I just shook his hand. He started crying. I said, hey, don't worry, you'll be all right. No, I'm not crying for anything else, because I've been so isolated from humans. I've just been sent off like this. At least you shook my hand. And that's why I always say thanks to Princess Diana, because she went and kissed the cheek of a HIV positive person to tell the whole world. But practically, inside your hearts, you would rather not. This is what happened. That we're following all the medical guidelines, but we're still having a problem. Now, this, again, I want to thank the Express, because they did this. Some of these HIV positive guys, if you look at their lives, they hear that they got HIV, they pick up some bottle of phenol or cleaning detergent and they swallow it immediately. That destroys their gullet. And that has a much more devastating impact on their bodies than the HIV itself. Even with HIV, it's no big deal. You can give good drugs, keep the virus flat. It doesn't matter. But then because of that impulsive act, that will give a problem. And many of them have got completely blocked gullets. And we've operated. This is one guy, after 32 months, HIV positive man with a blocked gullet. He drank water after 32 months. And this was particularly very, very important, because there was another guy like him who had been operated upon. The Indian Express had written that. And this guy came from Nagaland or Manipur or someplace. You can see those in the inset. You can see the original articles based on which this guy flew in. And he also got relief from that. So I'm saying the miseries, the travails and tribulations are so much. No, it's not just jobs, but what about homes? Would you rent out your place to a HIV positive person? Huh? How many of you would do? And here, I would like to say there's a fantastic thing. There's something called HIV orphans. Father dies of HIV, mother dies of HIV. Son, the child is HIV negative. He's negative. But the parents, siblings won't have him. The father's sisters or the mother's brothers won't have him. They'll say, we don't want our children to become negative. Jao yahan se. I'm very, very happy to say that we are supporting a group called Child, which is a home for, you can see on top there, it's a home for 26 of these kids whom we've been supporting for the last 10 or 11 years, and my entire input may be 10%, 15%. 85% of that is a person called Dr. Anand Kumar, who's standing next to me, to my left on this. Anand, why don't you just stand up? He's here, he's very much from Bangalore. From Bangalore. Not only that, he's one of your kind. He's in the IT industry where they're working on the super bugs. His company is called Bugworks. And for the last 10, 11 years, Anand has been working non-stop from here into Chennai. And these 26 kids have grown up, and the first 2 of them have gotten into college as well. And their homes are like our homes. And their bathrooms are as good as our bathrooms. And they, in my mind, are children of a lesser God. When it's time, I'm sure you'll be able to give them jobs. But somebody could have given their parents jobs so that these kids should not have starved. I want you to see what's written here. Love is God. This is what is written in Child Ashram. Love is God, Anbe Sivam. Very famous writing by a great Tamil scholar and a saint called Tirumular. He said, Anbe Sivamen Arindapin, Anbe Sivamai Amarnirundare. Once you understand that God is love, He will come. Shiva will come and sit inside you, and He will stay inside you. And that is what you can see. It's written in multiple languages. You can see others may not be inclusive with the HIV kids, but see, they are inclusive with languages. They are inclusive with everything, and they're a wonderful bunch of kids. And I would like to thank people like Dr. Anand Kumar here and Senthil. Last 2 or 3 slides. To finish up, we need to think above the lizard brain. We need to supersede it with our heads and hearts. We need to see the me in all, like your bloody friend. And Modi maths, I think, is brilliant. Many people are making fun of that. I think our PM got it right. He said, if I'm A and you're B, if you're separate, I'm A squared, you're B squared. You get together, A squared plus B squared plus 2AB. Kahan se aaya wo 2AB? He's right. If you get together, we can make the world a better place. And behind, see, it's very easy for us, all of us to go on laughing at everything. But he made a difference here. He's at least saying we can all do something together. And I think, I love it's much better than another PM whose name I don't want to mention. Bharat Ratna given to me, by me, signed by me, recommended by me. Then my daughter gets it, her son gets it, everybody gets it in a row. You know, you all know whom I'm talking about. I don't want to be politically... All right, this is my last slide to say, this is a painting that I did, oil on canvas. You can see I'm like full of nervous energy, and in my bursts of energy, sometimes I go and paint, and you can see that this is the entire cosmos that's represented there. Stars, the moon, the sun, everything is there. And you can see there is some primordial thing. You call it Allah, you call it Shiva, you call it what you want. If you really realize that, and we realize that that is there in every one of us, nobody can be anything else but inclusive. In my mind, not understanding that is an aberration. We just need to get rid of that aberration. We are genetically one. I told you about mitochondrial DNA. We are here for a short while only. Probably the best piece of writing ever written by Adi Shankara is the Bhaja Govindam. He said, Punarapi Jananam. He's looking at human beings and laughing. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani, Jataro Sainam. Or you guys are you're living for some time, you're dying for some time, or you're spending some time between living and dying, waiting to go into somebody. That's all there is, the cycle of life. And in that, you're choosing, his hair is different from mine. Hare, you're just looking at such microscopic differences of people. It's never too late to change. In my mind, I've realized it's never too late to change. The ideal time to change is today. So I'm going to end by quoting 2 people. Shakespeare again, who said in Hamlet, and this above all, and I want you guys to carry this back to you. To thine own self be true, for then shall it follow like the night follows the day, that thou shalt not be false to any other man. You need to be true to yourself. So whatever I'm asking you, I don't want you to answer now. Go, think about it at home. Project yourself into a situation. You have a HIV neighbor, you have a HIV parent, whatever. And I would also, I started with Bharadiyar. I would like to end with Bharadiyar by saying, Ennai pudhiya uyiraki. Make me a new person, new life. Enakedum kavaliyarach cheydu. Take away all my worries. Madidannai miga telivu seydu. Clear my mind, please. Endrum sandosham kondirukka cheivai. Make me always happy. Now, I'm going to ask you guys to spend only 2 to 3 minutes with me. No more talking. But you guys are all going to sing with me. The most inclusive song ever written is a song by John Lennon called Imagine. I've got the lyrics running there. Nobody's auditioning for bloody A.R. Rahman here. So it's the spirit, not how well you sing. So could I have my guitar? Do inclusivity. The guy was such an inclusive, an international writer that the whole world was in love with him. And one guy who killed him thought that he was John Lennon. He said, I'm John Lennon, you're not John. No? So actually I thought of starting with Winds of Change, the Scorpion song. But there's some whistling, and I'm very scared to whistle in Bangalore. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine there's no possessions. Come on, everyone sing. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger.
A man of many talents, but the talent to inspire, I think, is truly a blessing. On behalf of NASSCOM, we'd like to thank you once again for having accepted our invitation for that absolutely brilliant closing keynote. Please give him a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.